Have you ever made a decision that felt completely right, only to realize later that you were completely wrong? What if I told you that your brain has two systems that control your thinking, one that reacts instantly and another that takes its time to analyze? And what if I told you that these systems often work against each other, leading you to predictable mistakes? Welcome to Thinking Fast and Slow by Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman, a book that will change the way you understand your own mind. Part 1. The Two Systems. Kahneman introduces System 1 and System 2, the two modes of thinking that govern our minds. These two systems are constantly working together, influencing how we think, make decisions, and perceive the world around us. Understanding how they operate helps us recognize our cognitive strengths and vulnerabilities. System 1. Fast, intuitive, emotional. Example: you immediately know someone is angry by looking at their face. Works on instinct and pattern recognition, making decisions in a split second. However, it is prone to biases and errors because it jumps to conclusions without verifying details, often responsible for snap judgments and first impressions. System 2. Slow, deliberate, rational. Example: solving 17 by 24 requires focused effort and active engagement, used for deep thinking, logical reasoning, and critical decision-making. Requires significant mental effort, making it less likely to engage unless absolutely necessary. Helps override impulsive errors made by System 1, but is energy-intensive. These two systems interact constantly, shaping our decisions in ways we often don't realize. System 1 provides fast responses, while System 2 steps in to analyze when required. However, because System 2 is lazy, we often default to System 1, which can lead to cognitive biases and flawed judgments. Why this matters? Understanding the interplay between these two systems can help us become more mindful thinkers. By recognizing when to slow down and engage System 2, we can make more rational decisions and avoid common mental pitfalls. Part 2. Heuristics and Biases: How Our Brain Tricks Us. Kahneman and Tversky's research shows that System 1 relies on mental shortcuts, or heuristics, which often lead to biases, predictable errors in thinking. These biases influence our choices, sometimes in ways that are illogical or counterproductive. 1. The law of small numbers. We tend to jump to conclusions based on small samples, believing they represent the whole. Example: if a few people you meet from a country are rude, you might wrongly assume everyone from that country is rude. This happens because System 1 prefers simple patterns and ignores statistical reasoning. 2. The anchoring effect. Our decisions are influenced by the first piece of information we receive, even if it is arbitrary. Example: if someone says a phone costs $1,000 and then offers it to you for $700, you feel like you're getting a deal, even if the phone is actually worth only $500. Marketers and negotiators use this bias strategically to manipulate perceptions. 3. The Availability Heuristic. We judge the probability of events based on how easily we recall them. Example: after seeing news of a plane crash, we fear flying more than driving, even though car accidents are far more common. This heuristic makes us vulnerable to media influence and sensationalism. 4. The Representativeness Heuristic. We judge people based on stereotypes rather than statistical reasoning. Example: if someone is quiet and loves books, we might assume they're a librarian rather than a farmer, ignoring the fact that there are far more farmers than librarians. This bias often leads to misconceptions and faulty judgments. Part 3. Overconfidence: Why we think we know more than we do. Kahneman explains that humans tend to overestimate their knowledge and abilities, often leading to poor decision-making. 1. The illusion of understanding. We believe we understand the world better than we actually do, assuming that events are more predictable than they truly are. Example: experts often fail to predict stock market trends, yet they remain confident in their predictions. The reality is that randomness plays a bigger role in life than we acknowledge. 2. The Planning Fallacy. We underestimate how long tasks will take and overestimate our efficiency. Example: Projects almost always take longer than expected, whether it's writing a book or constructing a building. This happens because we focus on best-case scenarios and ignore potential setbacks. 3. The hindsight bias. We see past events as more predictable than they were. Example: after a stock market crash, people say, "It was obvious this would happen," even though they didn't see it coming beforehand. This makes us overconfident in our ability to predict future events. Part 4. Prospect theory. How we make decisions under risk. One of Kahneman's biggest contributions is prospect theory, which explains how people perceive gains and losses. 1. Loss aversion. Losing feels twice as painful as winning feels good. Example: you feel worse about losing $50 than you feel happy about winning $50. This explains why people make irrational choices to avoid losses. 2. The endowment effect. We overvalue things we own. Example: people sell their old items for high prices but wouldn't pay the same price to buy them from someone else. This bias prevents rational decision-making in buying, selling, and investing. 3. The fourfold pattern of risk. We behave differently when facing big versus small probabilities. Example: we overpay for lottery tickets because we overestimate small probabilities and underinsure against rare disasters because we underestimate them. Part 5. Two Selves. Why our memories deceive us. Kahneman distinguishes between the experiencing self, who feels the present moment, and the remembering self, who tells the story of our life. These two selves often perceive events differently, leading to surprising distortions in our memory and overall happiness. 1. The experiencing self versus the remembering self. The experiencing self is what we feel in real time, responding to moment-to-moment experiences. The remembering self constructs a narrative of those experiences, shaping how we recall and interpret them. One of the key insights Kahneman provides is that we do not choose between experiences. We choose between memories of experiences. The remembering self ultimately decides how we judge the past, which greatly impacts our future choices. 2. The peak end rule. Our memory of an experience is shaped mostly by its peak, most intense moment, and its end rather than the total sum of happiness throughout. Example: if a vacation had one terrible day at the end, we may remember it as a bad trip, even if most of it was great. The peak end rule influences how we recall past experiences and how we plan for future ones. 3. Duration neglect. We don't consider how long an experience lasts when evaluating how good or bad it was. Example: a short but intense pain feels worse in memory than a long, dull pain. This bias explains why we might choose short, dramatic experiences over longer but less eventful ones. 4. The implications of the two selves. Since our remembering self drives decision-making, we often choose options that will create better stories rather than better experiences. This can affect medical decisions. Patients might prefer a procedure with an intense but brief pain over a longer, milder one because the ending influences their memory. Vacation planning. People may prioritize peak experiences over consistent relaxation. Career choices. Many select careers that offer a compelling life story rather than daily satisfaction. How to use this knowledge to improve our lives. 1. Be aware of the peak end rule. Pay attention to how endings shape your perceptions and try to create positive conclusions to experiences. 2. Focus on consistent happiness rather than one-time peaks. Long-term satisfaction is more valuable than isolated moments of joy. 3. Recognize duration neglect. Just because something felt intense for a short time doesn't mean it was the best option. By understanding the difference between our two selves, we can make decisions that enhance both real-time experiences and long-term satisfaction. Final thoughts. How can we use this in real life? By recognizing cognitive biases and how System 1 and System 2 function, we can 1. Slow down and engage System 2 when making important decisions. 2. Question our instincts and gut reactions, especially when making judgments. 3. Think in probabilities rather than black and white terms. 4. Be aware of how framing affects decisions. Marketers and media manipulate our perceptions. 5. Practice critical thinking daily to improve decision-making over time. By understanding how we think, both fast and slow, we can make better decisions, avoid common pitfalls, and ultimately take control of our own minds.